lovely people. I'm Jessica, and welcome to my channel.
Hello, I'm Jazzy. Jazzy.
Now, we're both deaf, but I grew up hearing and Jazzy grew up deaf. So today we're going to be talking about the differences between that.
I can't wait.
First, I just want to explain that Jasmine's being voiced over because she doesn't use her voice. But I have some visually impaired subscribers, so I wanted to make sure that they could understand.
That's great. Sounds great.
My first question for you is, at what age did people know that you were deaf?
I was born fully deaf. When I was 10 months old, everyone found out I was deaf. It was quite late, as back then, in the old days, that's when you found out. Now you find out straight away. They all learnt BSL very quickly. They learned BSL for me. So, I grew up deaf.
But how did the doctors, just not know?
Yeah, right? Back then, it was so different from today. How old were you when you started going deaf?
15 was the age I sort of started to then lose my hearing. But it wasn't until about 18
Wow.
that I was then like, oh, this is a problem. And I went off to university, and that was the big difference, the kind of change in location. And before then, I'd been really ill and sort of just mainly on my own. So going off to university, and it's suddenly there's people everywhere, and I couldn't understand.
I know the feeling. That loss of control, it's really hard.
It was kind of weird because when I was really little, so 3 years old, I couldn't hear then either.
Really?
Yeah. I was born having problems with my hearing, and it was, I think when I was about 5 years old, I had an operation, and I'd had various operations, but that was the one that changed it.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought you'd started losing your hearing straight away when you were 15 or 16 or... How old did you say you were? I thought it started straight away then. I didn't realise you had problems when you were 3. Wow.
My deafness is part of my disabilities, which I've had since birth, but they're very episodic.
How did you cope when you first found out you were deaf?
At first I thought that I was just being lazy, because I sort of sit in school and I'd really try to understand, but I just couldn't. And I I asked, can I sort of sit at the front of the class and really watch the teacher, and I just...
Yes, I always had to sit at the front. Because I'm deaf, yes. But also because I had to watch the interpreter. If I sat at the back, how would I understand? So I'd look at the interpreter, but it was hard when the teacher would pace back and forth between me and the interpreter, and I had to say, please move, I want to see the interpreter.
Oh my god, school, university, everyone.
Yes, it's really, really annoying. I'm like, move please.
So I taught myself sign language just sort of to understand it when I was 15, because I sort of realised something's sort of wrong. And it really helped, but my school just didn't have any sign language.
Wow, was your school not deaf aware? Nothing?
No. There was no other deaf person, because I was losing my hearing, but I didn't have a diagnosis. And the university were actually really great. Brighton University. Go them.
Do you think being deaf is hard when you go to school and you're the only one, when everyone else is hearing? Challenging?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge was that I think I didn't have the words to explain to everyone else how I felt and how isolating it was.
It was the same myself in a mainstream school. Everyone else was hearing. I mean, they had a deaf unit with about 20 to 25 deaf, but I still found it challenging because when I was in the classroom, I was all by myself being deaf, so it was harder to cope. Well, sometimes I was by myself, And sometimes I was with other deaf students, luckily. Sometimes, if the level of the deaf was different, like if they were in the advanced set in English and I was in the lower, then we'd be apart. Then, in the classroom, I had to cope with lots. Like, it was hard to make friends because I had no speech. Plus, sometimes the teacher wasn't deaf aware, so that made it more difficult. But, luckily, I had an interpreter with me, and she supported me. I was really lucky.
Did you ever try using your voice, or always just no?
Yes, of course. I was using my voice when I was in secondary school some of the time, especially when I had my cochlear implant. Before that, I had hearing aids, but I couldn't hear anything. I was fully deaf. When I had my implant, I could hear lots of noises. It was exciting. I was pretty nervous. Then, a few years ago, my voice at school got worse because I was always signing with my friends. So then there was no point in using my voice. So my voice has dropped off, so I don't use my voice.
Because you have a lot of deaf friends.
Yes.
Right? How did you meet them?
School? Or deaf club? Deaf events? Plus, when I was first at school, I had hearing friends, but deaf ones, only a few. When I left my first school, I went to secondary school. I made deaf friends. And then I would meet their friends and so on. You know, small world.
One thing that I really wish I had more of is deaf friends.
Maybe you should go to deaf events, like the pub in Brighton.
Okay, come with me.
I'll be there, by your side, for support.
I think it's really hard when you're an adult to make friends.
Yes.
And then it's harder when you're an adult and you're deaf. It's like a different experience.
Yes. Like when you're an adult, you already have your life, like you have a wife, a job. You don't have time to make new friends. You have a busy life. Your work is your life. So it's hard to find friends now. I'm the same. When I have a busy life, I don't have time to meet people. But before, when I was younger, I was always going out and meeting people. When I was young. Now, I'm a bit old. 20.
Oh.
Yeah, but I feel old now because 20 is what children think of as an adult. I do agree with you. It can be harder to find friends. Definitely.
I'm lazy because the people who are in my life are all hearing. So, like, same as you, my family are hearing, but my wife is hearing. And I try and, make her sign.
That's sweet.
All of my, friends are all hearing, and it's easier for me because I speak I do the speaking, and then I try really hard to lip read, and I think I just allow people to, get away with it.
It's different because you grew up in a hearing community and family. You grew up hearing, so you went down that different path. I grew up deaf. I went to a mainstream school but in a deaf unit, and I took that path. So it's easy for me to take deaf friends because I was fully deaf, using BSL, using my voice. You've grown up hearing. That's why it's different.
So what was the hardest thing about growing up deaf?
Ooh, I have lots.
Oh.
I think the most difficult is communication. When I go out in public, like in a coffee shop or pub, when I want to order a drink or food, communication is always a big problem. I think how to communicate with them. So I can take notes on my phone and show it to them, but if I don't have my phone, then I can write it down on paper and show it to them. It's hard though, because all my life BSL has been my first language, but when I go out I have to change. It's hard to explain.
Do people sometimes think that you're rude? Because they'll say something and you're just like...
Yes, all the time. What about you?
I think that the one kind of really big problem that comes from having grown up hearing is that I have my voice. People have no idea that I can't understand them. So if I ask for something and I say, oh, excuse me, can I have this please? And they'll just, oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I know I sound like this, but I don't actually understand.
Yeah. When I was in school, I would try to lip read to the teacher if the interpreter hadn't arrived yet. But for example, if they were late, but then the teacher would turn to face the whiteboard and back to me, then away again, it was so hard. Like, how can I hear?
How old are you?
I was at school, about 11, 12, 13, in secondary school.
Is there anything about growing up deaf that you think sort of like makes life easier now?
Yes, definitely. When I was a young child, I found my life was more challenging because I was learning, everything was new. And now I've grown up, I can look back and can see I've learnt all of this, so I feel it's much easier now, you know? I lived in this world for 20 years. How about you? Do you think that life is easier now?
Sometimes I just think that if I was grown up deaf, I'd be so much better at my signing. Because I'm like receptive at sign language and I understand a lot, but then whenever I'm signing, I can only do SSE. So then it's really difficult for me to try and move between. And if there's an interpreter who's at an event and they are doing BSL because maybe there's like another deaf person there, it's really hard for me to be like, excuse me, I don't understand.
Like you feel left out? Like the group ignores you and you can't join in?
Most people who've grown up hearing and then become deaf, they feel like there are these two worlds. So there's the hearing world and there's the deaf world, and we're just kind of like awkwardly in the middle because I don't understand enough of this hearing one. But at the same time, in the deaf one, I know that I'm different. So that's definitely the most difficult.
Do you think the hearing and the deaf worlds are different?
Yeah, but like the same as it's a language. So if I lived in a country where they spoke two languages and they spoke Spanish and they spoke French, I spoke English and I'd be like,
I understand nothing. It's hard for me because I don't speak, so it's hard to understand English. Then, different countries like France or Spain, their languages, it's so hard. Plus, in school, I never learned because they had French and Spanish classes, but they believed, why does a deaf girl need that? So, I was given extra support to polish up my maths and English skills because they were considered more important than learning a foreign language. So I had them taken off my timetable when I was in school.
It's important to understand English first, obviously, but have you ever wanted to learn a different sign language? Like ASL?
Yes, I know a little bit of ASL, like, hello, my name is Jazzy. Yeah, I would love to learn different sign languages, like international or ASL. I find them really interesting. It's so funny because some people think the world has one sign language, but each country has their own. ASL and BSL are really different.
What was the very first sign that you learned?
When I was 10 months old, my mum told me my first signs were chocolate, biscuit, and milk, because I just loved food. I was a quick learner. I started at 10 months. It wasn't even 6 weeks before I signed. I was quick. I was about 1? Yeah. So I was 10 months old when they found out I was deaf, and by the time I was 1, I had picked up loads of signs. Then the teacher of the deaf came and they were like, oh, brilliant, she's very clever. Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching us. And I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. Please now go to Jazzy's channel and watch the video that we also filmed.
My video's about what? Christmas crackers. So I've got lots of questions with what you'd like to know about us, and we will pull crackers and answer the questions.
I'm very excited.
We'll have fun.
Crackers opening. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
It's different.
Oh, we said horse, different sign. London sign and Brighton sign's a bit different.
Well, I learnt sign in Bristol.
Oh, in Bristol, really? It's funny. The north and the south side are really different. It's really strange how...
Bristol's not north.